I think, well, I mean, the morning start, I assume I slept about as well as I normally do, which is not good before a race.
Dang.
Yeah, it's hard to fall asleep because everything's running through your mind. But I think I felt good in the morning. Just ate my normal oatmeal, and they had a great aid station, so we didn't have to take any food with us or water because it was every 3 miles. So I don't think we carried
Yeah.
anything, which was nice.
Yeah, that is nice.
Yeah. Um, was that the tornado day?
Yeah, there was a tornado that day too.
There was a tornado warning that morning, and they basically said, run on your own risk, I guess.
Yeah.
And you could see it coming in.
Yeah, we got rained on pretty hard.
Oh, it was hard, and it was a muddy course. It was up hills, and we were just caked in mud. You would come up, and your shoes are just caked in mud every 3 miles.
The course was at a ski lodge, so this is like ski slopes and through the woods and everything. So there were some uphills and some areas
up the ski slopes.
Really.
Yeah. Okay. Got some elevation gain.
Yeah.
So it was just a muddy mess the entire time. We got rained on.
Oh.
Yeah. It was very slippery on some of the hills, and hard to climb them. And
some areas, your mud was so caked on your shoes that once you got a flat spot, you had to like pound on your
to get mud off. This is your host Brendan, and you're listening to the Ordinary to Ultra podcast. This podcast is all about helping you run your first ultramarathon and beyond. Tune in to hear new and experienced ultra runners share how they got into running in the first place, what inspired them to run an ultra, training and race day tips, and the gripping story of their first ultramarathon. Prepare yourself to be inspired as you hear stories of grit, sometimes failure, but ultimately triumph when our guests finally cross the finish line. Few clothing companies out there have actual trail runners design their trail running clothes, and Territory Run Co. is the few. Brett Farrell, the founder of Territory Run Co., has been an avid trail runner for over 15 years, and he has designed some of the most thoughtful, functional, and just cool trail running clothing I've ever worn. 5-panel hats, t-shirts, sun shirts, shorts, socks, beanies, and more. They've got it all. I personally, though, love Territory Run Co.'s products for 2 reasons. First, I love their vibe. Most running brands are built around this performance is everything vibe, like work hard, sweat hard. That's fine, but we have enough of those. Territory Run Co. is built around the feeling that you get when you go out and try a new trail for the first time, or when you go on a trail running trip with friends. Second, Territory Run Co. builds their products for trail runners by trail runners. I have 2 of their hats, and they're my go-to running hats because they're incredibly light, super breathable, have super cool outdoorsy patterns, and I can throw them in the washing machine, which is super convenient. But what I love most about them is they have a little loop that goes around that floppy strap in the back of the hat that keeps it from flopping in front of your face if you're wearing it backwards, which is fantastic. Anyway, if y'all are in the market for some trail running hats or clothing, go check out Territory Run Co. And lucky for you, Brett has hooked me up with a coupon code for the listeners of this podcast. So head over to territoryrun.co and use the code ordinary to ultra20 to get 20% off your first order. Both the website and the code are listed in the show notes of this episode. So go down to the show notes, copy the code, tap the link, and get some sick gear. All right, thanks for listening. Now back to the show. Hey, Stephie and Steve, super excited to have you both on the Ordinary to Ultra podcast today. Excited to dive into your ultramarathon stories and hear more about it.
Sounds good.
What's fun, a brief intro before I ask them to tell us more about themselves. Stephie is the daughter of Steve and Diana, who were on the podcast a few months ago. They're, I think, in their 70s. Is that right?
70s.
Yeah. They're in their 70s, and they're still doing this.
Yes.
And they got into it recently-ish, which is just incredible. But we've heard from them. We've heard from Josh, your brother, Josh Law, who was even before them, so a few months ago. But yeah, we're just going through the whole family, getting your whole
That's
story.
right.
Yeah, which is really fun. It's fun to see so many in a family that do this. I don't
Yep.
think it's common. So, anyway, I would love to have y'all introduce yourselves at a high level. If you wouldn't mind telling us a bit about yourselves, like how old you are, where you're living, what you do for work, and what your family looks like.
Okay. Well, I'm Steffi, and we both live in Burlington, Iowa. We've either lived in Illinois or Iowa our entire lives. Um, I went to college and have a teaching degree in physical education, but out of college, I taught 1 year and then ended up at a YMCA as a health and fitness director. So I worked there for 20 years, and now I switched over I work at a hospital gym, and I've been there about 8 years, and I'm a personal trainer, and I teach fitness classes, and so basically love what I do. It's very rewarding. We have a 29-year-old son who is currently a strongman. He competes in strongman competitions. So he didn't quite get the
Man,
running bug that we got. He's a bigger guy. Not sure where he got it, but yes. So he's really enjoying that. It's pretty amazing to watch him compete. Um, and then we have a 4-year-old granddaughter, Layla.
oh, cute! What a name. That's a cute name.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm
Cool.
Steve. We met actually in college. I actually was a roommate of her brother, believe it or not. And that's how we kind of met. I'm currently a production superintendent at a company called American Ordnance. So that's kind of what I do.
Awesome. And would y'all mind telling us how old you are?
Oh,
Oh,
yeah.
yes,
No worries.
52 and
I'm 53. Yep.
52 and 53. Awesome. Now, I like asking because what's cool about ultra running is there's so many people across all the ages
yes,
doing it. So
exactly.
it's
Yep.
really, really fun. Thank you. Then thanks for the intros. Did you ever tell your son who isn't into running that he could do Spartans? You know, they got those
Yes.
really long obstacle
Yep.
course ones.
We actually, his wife, our daughter-in-law, did a Tough Mudder with us last year.
Yeah.
And she did so well. He was concerned about getting hurt because he was in the midst of his strongman
Yeah.
competition training. So he's always
Yes.
talked about doing it. He actually did a 4 hour run with us. Several years ago. We were doing the 8. He was doing the 4 when we got our ultra, and he
Yeah.
didn't train for it. This was before his strongman, and I think he ended up doing 14 miles. And I think he pretty much swore he would never do that again. It was the hardest
Yeah.
thing he's ever done. So that's as close as I
Dang.
got with him.
Yeah. Oh,
He,
that's
he
cool.
did
Cool.
participate though. Earlier, we did a market to market race. It was like a relay race. It was over 75 miles between 6 people.
Oh yeah, I guess he did do that in May.
Yeah,
Oh,
in
So
cool.
he
May.
ran two
All right.
legs.
Two
And,
legs of it. So he did do that. It's kind of fun to
Mm-hmm.
watch a big guy run down the trail like
yep.
that. So,
Yeah.
Props.
He attempted.
He
He
is
attempted.
yeah.
trying.
Yep, he was
Yes.
trying.
He's done it. Yeah. And I get it's not for everyone. My wife is a personal trainer as well. She's not practicing right now. So that's cool. Yeah. You're doing
Yeah.
personal training as well, and you've probably
Yep.
done a variety of physical activities,
Yep.
but
Absolutely.
also ultra runs. So that's cool.
Yep.
Solid. Well, thanks for the intro. And now I'll ask both of you how you individually got into running. Maybe that was together, maybe it wasn't. So you could start one by one and tell us how you got into running in the first place, whatever that was.
I started when I started working at the YMCA. I was probably in my 30s when I actually really started running. Um, there was a lunchtime group that would, come over during lunch and we'd run together. And I just remember a lady named Kay, and she would take me out, and I'd literally run, I don't know, 3 blocks at a time, and thought I was going to die. My goal was to run 3 miles. And I remember coming home and telling my parents, "Oh, I ran 3 miles." And, back then we didn't really run. And they're like, "Oh my God, I can't believe you ran 3 miles." you know,
Yeah.
and it's crazy to think that now for what we do. But so mine
Hmm.
was basically at work, during lunch, just not really knowing what I was doing. We just went out and did it.
Yeah.
That's how I started.
Yeah, I was probably maybe 2 or 3 years behind her when I actually started. I kind of started doing it because, like I said, I was more into weightlifting and I was trying to do some more cutting and stuff like that. And I just remember her starting to take off and run more miles, and I would run 1 or 2 miles, just be out of breath. But I remember when the first time she started training with our neighbor actually now to do a half marathon, and remember her coming home one day saying, "Oh, we just ran 8 miles," and I was like, "Oh gosh, how do you do that?" Oh, so and then I started looking back and all our training we started doing. We've actually ran a half marathon before work. Got up at 4 because we had to have the time to get some miles in. So I kind of look back now. It's like, wow, that's
Now you just do you do
yeah,
half marathons before work because that's part of your training plan.
yeah,
Yeah.
Got
I
to be at work at
appreciate that
7. Got to get up
reflection.
at 3.
yeah.
Yeah. It's weird. I feel the same way. I've been training for my first 50K, and I was just years ago that I have a friend who was into running. She would run 8 miles for fun. She wasn't training for anything. I was like, oh my goodness, that is a long ways. What are you doing? How do you
And it
do
really
that
is a
so
long ways.
easily? It is. It's
a long
Yeah, and
ways.
it's all relative. When
Yes.
you first start, 3 miles was so painful, and then
Yep.
um,
Yeah.
now we're running. I do half marathons before work too. Up in the
Yes.
mountains, it's like I got 3,500 feet of elevation gain and a half
Oh, wow.
marathon in before work. It's like,
Before work, absolutely.
do what you
And
got to do.
it's just the thought of when we first started, we have no idea about nutrition. When I ran my half with my neighbor, we literally decided before the race we are not going to drink a drop of liquid during this race because we didn't want to have to stop and go to the bathroom. We'll just dehydrate ourselves. So, you know what? That was our thinking. We did it. We didn't take a drink the whole half marathon and we were fine. But now I look back and I'm like, wow, was I not very smart? You know. But at
And
the
that's
time
another
we
thing.
didn't know any different.
Yeah, but that distance, it's doable. You're
It's
just going to be really
doable. Absolutely.
dehydrated
Yes,
after.
it
But
is.
like a marathon,
No,
Yeah.
no,
I don't think
no,
so.
absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah, it's weird. And the time of day, and there's just so many factors that go into it. Because I just did a afternoon run, and like I'm needing to drink water because it's 80 degrees. But when I'm
Yeah,
running at 60 degrees, I don't really
don't
need to
feel
drink
any.
much.
Right, exactly. Yep.
Yeah, interesting stuff. And I guess maybe a good takeaway, listeners, for that would be, there's just lots of different factors, and you can just try lots of different things and feel it out, and you'll learn how your body reacts to
Yep,
different
exactly.
things like heat and how much water to drink.
Yep.
Like I don't drink for 6 mile runs usually
Yeah,
until
we don't
after.
either.
And yeah, but that seems like a long ways, like
It
back
does.
in the day. Weird stuff. Anyway, that's awesome. So okay, we got how both of you. No, did we hear how you started, Steve? I'm forgetting.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
Kind
Cool.
of a couple
Thank
years
you.
later. Yeah.
Yes. Awesome. So that's how you started, and then Steve, you mentioned that Steffi did this. Was starting to train for like a half and maybe a marathon. When was it, Steffi, that you started? Maybe when was your first marathon?
The first marathon was in 2017. My first half was probably, I think I was maybe 38 or 9. So 12,
Okay.
13 years ago
Okay. Yeah.
was my
A
first
little,
half.
yeah, farther back. And then the
Yeah.
marathon was like just a few years ago.
Yeah. 8 years ago or 7.
Yeah.
7 years ago.
Man, it just doesn't seem like that long ago. 2018, 16.
No, it goes,
What the
that's for
heck?
sure. Time goes fast.
What the? Anyway, okay. And then we have a lot to cover, so maybe I'll ask, when did you like first hear about ultramarathon running? When did that first get on your radar? Like maybe it was a book, maybe it was a family member, friend. I don't know. When did you learn about that?
Definitely my brother Josh.
Ah, that's Josh.
Yes, that's Josh. I know he's caused me to do a lot of things. So definitely with him. I mean, that's why we did our first one. Was he was coming back from Vegas to do it, and it was in Illinois, Galena, Illinois. So it was him. That we knew he was doing it. Of course, my parents are doing it, and if they're doing it, how can we say we're not doing it? So
Yeah.
so that's basically how we got started with that one.
Yeah,
After
so
a marathon, we're like, okay, that's good. We're good. But then this came up, and
I never thought we could run more than 24, and then we
26.
did this, or 26, sorry.
Yeah.
So then we started doing this. Like, wow, we can.
You can.
Yeah, and that was and you all ran the same ultramarathon, is that right?
Yeah.
Or timed race.
Yeah. I think Josh had already done several, I'm sure, before that. But
yeah.
I'm not sure. I think my parents might have been, I don't know if they did one before that or not. I can't remember the year, but we had some friends that actually did it with us. So it was just fun. Because you did a 3-mile loop. So there were several people out there. So, you can kind of chat as you're going around. And so.
Okay, cool. So that's how you learned family peer pressure. It's real.
Yes.
But you were already, yeah, it's still there. I bet. I can imagine. But you'd already been running. So you were already runners. And then Josh was like, you gotta check this out.
Yes.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Did he invite you to do it, or did you kind of just decide to do it?
I don't know if there's any invitations. I think it's we're doing this. So, I guess, I think they all decided they were going to do it. And we thought, well, why not? You know what? It's 8 hours. We can walk, we can rest, we can, do whatever we need to do. We just have to keep moving figure out how to get done in 8 hours. So it didn't sound as daunting.
Yeah.
So we just started training for it and kind of made up our own training plan by that point, because we'd done enough running and marathons and things that we thought, well, we can just come up with our own at this point, and it worked.
Yeah. Nice. Man, it's interesting you say like the lack of pressure on the time-based run, which sounds really intriguing. I think there might be some timed runs near me, but I don't think there's many. But yeah, do you prefer the timed run over the distance run? Like, yeah, you do. Cool.
Regardless of, obviously we probably wouldn't have gone that far. Obviously, if we were doing an ultra, we went further than we would have needed to for an ultra. So, I think going into it and just the training itself, I felt like I had less pressure on me. Don't know why. We were still training for the same thing, but how'd you feel?
Yeah, I was the same way. You knew you just had the time to actually get it done, and there was no pressure really. I mean, like she said, you could actually walk if you had to, just as long as you got what you need to get done in 8 hours.
Yeah, and did you have like I want to go at least this far in the...
Yeah, we did.
Yeah.
And we way past it.
Yeah.
What was it was? Was it 20 miles? We're like, oh, let's just do. We were probably downplaying ourselves. We could do a lot more than what we give ourselves credit for most of the time. I think everyone is like that. I can't do that, but you can. So we definitely did a lot more than we expected or planned on doing.
That's cool. Yeah, I love that idea of timed race. I'd like to do one someday. Maybe that could be my first 50 miler, so there's no pressure. It's just like, if I could do it, then I can. But if not, it's okay.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, okay. I think I'm hopping on your bandwagon here. Yeah. Because, and the cutoffs. I don't know if you have done a timed race, but Yeah, my 50K coming up has cutoffs. They're pretty
Yep.
all right, pretty generous, but
Yeah.
still, there's a cutoff. And just knowing
Yep.
that in your head, it's like,
Yep. That's
I
for
don't
sure.
like.
Yep.
And there is a cutoff in an 8-hour race, but it's like, you don't have to cover a certain distance in a certain amount of time.
That's what takes the pressure off. Yeah.
I think all the
Yeah.
rest of our runs, our longer runs have had cutoffs, our marathons, and then the 3 races we've done in Leadville have cutoffs. But, otherwise, yeah, this one's great because you don't really have that.
Yeah. Love it. Well, thanks for exploring that with me for a second. I'd like to ask too, you're a running couple. Do you run together most of the time, or do you kind of switch off and run at your own times alone, or a mix? I'm just curious.
Well, we're probably 90% run together.
Cool.
Obviously, there's times that, like in the morning before work, there's times that we've separated, but it's very, very seldom. And then in races, we stay together. Unless someone's feeling really good, we usually stay together until close to the end. And then it's like, he's taken off because he feels better than me or I take off. So we kind of go back and forth with that. But otherwise it's probably at least 90% we run together.
Yeah.
That's nifty. Just so you know, I think that's really nifty. Really cool. I've brought on a couple couples. I think you're the third. And Steve and Diana were the second, and the first were Batemans. I think they ran their first 50 miler together, which is really cool. It's really cool when you have a built-in buddy to go and do all this with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I find it really helps with your pace too, because
it does.
She kind of helps me because sometimes I'll, with the excitement of taking off with the race and the crowd, sometimes I'll want to get out of the gate and go quick, and she's kind of bring me back down a little bit. And she knows the pace that we need to go, so that really helps too.
Yeah, take it easy, Steve.
Yeah.
Come on. Come on, man. We got another 20 miles. That's awesome. Yeah, that's super helpful. You got a pacer.
Yeah.
All the time.
Pacer,
yeah. That's sweet. Well, sweet. So, you have this timed race coming up, and that was the year 2018 that you did
I think it was 18. It might have been 18.
Yeah. So a few years ago, how much time did you have to train for that sucker?
I think we decided maybe the race was the second weekend in May, I believe, or second weekend in May, and we probably started training in January, February.
Yeah, probably
for it. And we always keep a 5-mile base year round
to maintain.
Yeah, so that's kind of our base. We try to get out at least. We run like 3 times a week, and one's at least 5 miles. Maybe
Nice.
2. Right now, we're kind of in an off season, so we're down to we'll run 5 on Tuesdays. That's our big run, and just to keep a base, and that way we know we can at least do that, and then we can build. So yeah, we probably started with our 5-mile base and built up from there, and that starting in January, and
then the race was May. Yeah, solid. I like that too. The base thing. I do that as well, or I did this last year, anyways. I've only been running 2 years. But this last winter, I kept a 6-mile. I ran 6 miles 2 times a week.
Yeah.
And that keeps that there, so you don't have to start at 2 miles again and suffer.
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah, I like that. That's cool. Okay, so it was a timed race, and you knew you wanted to go 20 miles. But what did your training look like? What kind of miles were you putting in? How many times a week to get to your goal?
I think we were running at that time maybe 6 miles twice a week, and then on the weekends we would do up to 12 or 13. And we have a local place here that has some trails. A little bit of hills, so we would go out there and try to run the trails there. That seemed to help too with.
Yeah.
Um,
We're all road running mainly in our area, so just getting on the trails helped. But yeah, so it was probably we'd do one long run and we just build up on Saturdays, but then we'd have two like this 5 or 6 miles during the week. Um,
Yeah, and those typically stayed at like 5 or 6 miles, and then it was
yeah,
like the
and then
weekend that kind of like,
kept
keep up.
building up.
yeah. What do you
You know,
think your longest long run was?
it wasn't as long as when we were marathon training.
Oh
So
yeah,
I think when we were marathon training, it was 22 miles. We did that was our longest.
Yeah.
whoosh.
It wasn't that far,
No. Yeah.
so I don't know if it was even 20.
I think we did maybe a 18
Yeah.
on there. So yeah.
Nice.
So we
Dang.
so we
And
basically ran about 20 more miles than what we trained for during the race.
yeah,
I wouldn't say that's
yeah,
smart, but that's what happened.
Yeah.
yeah. That's incredible. Like shows what you can do.
Yep.
Um, Even if you don't feel like you followed that training plan
Right. Exactly.
100% or whatever. Cool. So you trained, you ran about 3 times a week, and you had an idea of nutrition, I think, because you'd
By
already
this
ran
point,
a
yes, we had.
marathon.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So just curious what your go-tos are for like, electrolytes and maybe energy. What do you typically go to?
I eat oatmeal in the morning. I don't eat before I run like if I'm running 5 or 6 miles, or a half marathon. But if we're doing a lot longer than that, then I usually eat oatmeal in the morning. That seems to agree with me the most. And then I've tried several different kinds of electrolyte drinks.
Yeah.
I try to find like a lower sugar one. They seem to agree with me more.
Hmm.
I am not a goo eater. I used to do goo a
Yeah.
lot years ago, but I got off the goo. I just tried to find something that's more natural, better, I guess. I know there's a reason for goo. There a time and place for goo, but I just I basically find like some type of bar I can eat that has some sugar in it, that has some carbs and protein that I can nibble on while I'm running if I need something. He's a goo person, so
Yeah. I take them. So yeah. I even stock up, depending on how far you're running, how many I take with me. But yeah, I'm more of the goo person. Then
He's
we
a
actually, we
goo
actually
guy.
run with um, a vest too with our water. So we have a couple of different ones. We usually have one of the bottles full of electrolytes, one full of water. So we can switch back and forth.
Yes. Yeah, same. I've been doing that recently, trying to have one that's just water, because sometimes you really just want just water.
yeah,
And
Yeah.
then you
yeah,
got the electrolyte over here. And
yeah.
I got Element recently.
That's what I use
Yeah,
is
that's what
Element.
we use.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think
My
that's
favorite.
for the long guys. I feel like that's the best way to go, because then you have like a ton of electrolytes
Yeah,
here, and then you can drink your water.
yeah,
But I feel like for over a half marathon, 500 milligrams of sodium is too little, but 1,000, like, that is
yeah,
definitely sufficient.
yeah. I agree.
Yeah, cool. Well, that's cool. That's what you use. What do you use, Steve, for your electrolyte solution?
We are using that element. Yeah.
Element as well. Okay.
Yeah, we switched to that.
What's that brand you've been eating?
Oh, for the nutrition side of it, instead of goo, I found this company. They're called SOS,
Hmm.
and it's not as thick as goo. It's almost a little bit more watery, so it's easier to uh, get down, I guess, quick instead of
Yeah.
how the goo is. You kind of suck on a
Yeah.
little bit, and you got to take a drink and suck
Yeah.
on a little bit more. This seems
Yes.
to go down a little quicker, and it seems a little bit easier on my stomach too when I'm running.
Huh.
I've actually done
Well, that's
those, and
good.
if I were to use one, I would use it. It is easier to get down. It doesn't make me nauseated as much, and
Huh.
so it's
That's
a
good to
brand.
know.
Mm-hmm.
I believe it's
SOS.
Yeah, I believe it stands for Sports of Science, I believe. So something similar to that.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's cool. Good to hear other options. I have the GU
Yep.
tri-berry gels, and
Oh
they had a
yeah,
little bit
yeah,
of caffeine. And
yeah.
sometimes that I feel like that sugar and the caffeine hits quick, and it does agree with me. But when I ran my marathon and only had those, and my teeth were caked in sugar at the end, it was just
Yeah,
grody. I
it is.
never wanted to have one ever again.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely plan on having more real food, like some bars, Cliff Bars,
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
maybe
what I use,
during.
just clip bars.
Yeah. Yeah.
Funny story with the GU packets, the goo. When we was doing a half marathon, and we came across an aid station that had one of those. So I had
Mm,
forgotten mine, so I grabbed a couple and I stuck one in my belt, or my
mm,
waistband, and I was wearing
mhm.
tights that day, and I got to run a little bit more. It fell down my tights, and it was like all the way down to my knee at this point. And
Oh,
I'm trying to.
dang.
I finally had to stop and go over and get it out of my tights. It
Stuck
fell,
on your
it stuck on my knee, and it was like rubbing. So
Ow. Dang it.
that was not a.
Didn't make it to the pocket.
Yeah,
Dang.
yeah,
That's annoying.
yeah.
That's funny. Nice. Well, thanks for explaining a little bit about what you guys are doing for nutrition. And you had a self-made plan. That's it,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
Yeah. I love it.
We followed plans when we first started running,
Yeah.
to a T.
Yeah.
But then we've done it, seems like so many times now. We just know what we need to do
Yeah.
to.
You just need to add miles
Yeah.
each week.
I would say that probably our downfall is we don't do any like interval training, which we should do more of, and we don't. With meaning like we do interval strength and things, but we don't do like sprint training or you know zone training. We just go out and run.
Yep. Well, I appreciate that too. Yeah, I don't either. Frankly, I run zone 2, zone 3, and they are like,
Yeah.
zone 3 is the death zone.
Yes.
But I typically run zone 2 and zone 3 if I'm going up a hill, zone 4
Yeah.
maybe.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's interesting. A lot of the plans and coaches will like really complicated and give you all these fancy different types of runs you need to do.
Right.
But look at you guys, you
Yeah.
ran a simple plan and
Yep.
you did it.
Yep.
So makes you wonder, what's necessary? Maybe it's not necessary. Right. Maybe you would have been stronger if you had done the intervals and stuff.
I think it depends on what your goals are. I mean, obviously, we were not out to win any of these races. Our goal is to finish and to try. We try to kind of pick out a time that we want to do it in. So we're racing against ourselves.
Yeah.
So obviously, if you do well within your age group, good. Great. But it's not necessarily our goal.
Yeah, and well said. And the people listening to this will typically probably be the people who just want to finish, like me.
Yep.
Like we're just trying to do something hard, and we're not out there to be a crazy athlete. We're just trying to do something hard and interesting.
Exactly.
And
yep.
Yeah, I appreciate that insight. So, let's talk about race day. So, the day of your 8-hour race, I'd love for you to recount, both of y'all, just the experience from like when you woke up, and if you remember how much sleep you got. I don't know, where were you staying, if it was your house or whatever, and then like when the race starts, and then anything interesting or like how you felt while you were running the actual event or race. Would love to hear anything you remember. And then up until you cross the finish line, just want to hear all the stuff you may remember.
I think, well, I mean, the morning start, I assume I slept about as well as I normally do, which is not good before a race.
Dang.
It's hard to fall asleep because everything's running through your mind. But I think I felt good in the morning. Just ate my normal oatmeal, and they had a great aid station, so we didn't have to take any food with us or water because it was every 3 miles. So I don't think we carried
Yeah.
anything, which was nice.
Yeah, that is nice.
Yeah. Um, was that the tornado day?
Yeah, there was a tornado that day too. Yeah.
So
Oh, that's a factor.
we've done this race twice. So I get my, weather confused, but there was a tornado warning that morning and they basically said run on your own risk, I guess.
Yeah.
And you could see it coming in.
Yeah, we got rained on pretty hard.
Oh, it was hard and it was a muddy course. It was uphills and we were just caked in mud. You would come up and your shoes are just caked in mud every 3 miles.
The course was at a ski lodge. So this is like ski slopes and through the woods and everything. So there were some uphills and some areas
up the ski slopes.
Really.
Yeah. Okay. Got some elevation gain.
Yeah.
So it was just a muddy mess the entire time. We got rained on.
Ugh. Did you slip in and was that pretty miserable?
Yes. It was very slippery on some of the hills and hard to climb them. And
some areas your mud was so caked on your shoes that once you got a flat spot, you had to like pound on the ground to get the mud off. So that was
geez. Yeah.
But the aid stations were wonderful. I mean, the food was, that's the good thing about long runs is you get the best food.
So like every 3 miles,
just every 3 miles they'd have something. They changed out the food every so often, and
nice.
But it was really good.
I think I joked around because I said I think I gained weight while I ran this. Something every time I went to the aid station. So.
What was the I don't know, nicest thing you got at the aid station? Probably. Did they do anything like burritos or hamburgers or anything, or was it kind of just cold food?
They did have that quesadillas, bean
burritos.
Oh my gosh!
Sandwiches.
The peanut butter and jelly was my favorite.
Pickle juice. That was.
Oh yep,
that was good.
The normal chips and stuff, but the peanut butter and jelly was my favorite, or the grilled cheese. The grilled cheese was my favorite. Yeah.
That sounds really good.
Yeah, I mean,
actually,
who doesn't like a good grilled cheese? So,
yes.
Yeah, they had good food. That's what I remember the most.
So while y'all were doing this thing, 8 hours, it's a long time to be moving. Did you have any low moments where you're like, oh my gosh, I just kind of want to stop moving right now? Or
I did.
Physical, mental low moments. Yeah.
He was way better off than I was on this one. I've always struggled with my hips, and they just, every step I took, they hurt so bad. And since then, I've really started focusing more on hip strength with some things I do on my own. But it was the last probably 7-8 miles he was dragging me along. I'm like, let's just, I think that was good. Nope, we can do another lap. Nope, we can do another lap. And I'm glad he did at this point. I think I won my age group.
You did that year.
So,
well, dang.
Yeah. So I was, I had no clue. But, I wouldn't have if he wasn't there pushing me to keep going.
Yeah, and that's like a distance thing. Like you went the farthest in your age group or something? Cool. Awesome.
So that was pretty exciting. So it was all worth it, but during it, I was just in a lot of pain. As you know, things hurt. So,
yeah.
I think for me too is we did have some friends out there, and they were running also, and I don't know, I just didn't want to stop. I wanted to keep on going because they were still going too. I didn't want to, be the one to quit, I guess. So we all pretty much kept on running and finished the 8 hours.
I think the hard part was knowing that, it's 3.5 miles around. So it's like, okay, if we start again, we got to do another 3.5 miles. Yeah. So every time we started again, it was like, okay, there's 3.5 miles. But
locked in.
Yeah, but it's mind over matter. So.
Yeah, that is tricky. That's the tricky thing with these loops too. Like, I feel like get in my head more than maybe a point to point, because everything's different in a point to point race. Like, and you kind of have to keep going. But in those loops, you could stop at any time.
Yep.
How would be tempting.
Which may not be a good thing. Yeah. It's like, oh, here's the aid station. I could hang out here and eat grilled cheese. But,
But then to me, you broke it down in your mind. It was like, 3.5 miles, 3.5 miles. It's not, oh, I got to do 30 miles. It's like do 3.5 miles and do it again. Just keep on going. So I know that at one point though, there was another group that started 4 hours after us. So we had got 4 hours in. We'd already went through the tornado warning and mud and everything. And a new group started, and you see new people, and they're all cheery and laughing.
They're fresh.
Taking off fresh.
Yeah, they're like sprinting around. I know that was kind of one of the point. You're like, oh man.
Yeah, we'd already done 22 miles, I think, at that point. It's like, and we'd already dried up the mud by that point too.
Yeah.
Walked the mud and kind of dried out by the time they started. So,
well, it wasn't that nice of you to,
it was.
To pack that down for them.
Yes.
Yeah, that would totally get in your head. I sometimes go on long runs and I get towards the end and I'll see someone like sprinting. I'm like, you just got here.
Exactly.
No fair. Don't compare. Don't compare.
Yeah, absolutely.
Dang. So y'all finished this thing eventually at the end of 8 hours. Like, did you finish at 8 hours, or was it like?
There was a few minutes left because they had this at the end. If you knew you couldn't do a full 3, there was like a short out and back you could do.
It might have been a mile.
Did we do one?
Not that year.
Not that year. Yeah.
So you could do that, because obviously 3 miles can take you a while. So you could do that to fill in more mileage at the end. But I think we were hitting it pretty close. So I don't think we would have gotten another.
Yeah. So if you started that last loop and you didn't finish it, you didn't get credit for it. So that's why they kind of had a little out and back at the end. So if you only had a half hour left, you could go out and do a out and back and get a few more miles in, I guess.
So y'all did that little out and back?
The second year we didn't the first year because we were too close to the end of the 8 hours to add another mile.
Yeah. So you'd hit the 37. You maybe had like 20 minutes left or something.
Yeah.
And you were like,
okay. What? Yeah. I'm good.
Yeah. I'm going to try to bust another 3 hours out.
Yeah.
Or sorry, 3 miles out in 20 minutes.
Yeah. That was not going to happen.
No way. Man, how did y'all feel when you hit the finish line? Like, you knew how far you'd gone, I presume. Like, how'd you feel about yourselves, and how were you physically?
You've probably been there. You've been there before. When you get that medal, it's the best feeling in the world.
Yeah.
It's like all the pains kind of drift away until the next day. But it's like it's just we were tired and sore and sat for a little bit and watched people finish, but it's a great feeling.
Yeah.
There's nothing that can compare.
And we always joke too. It's like you finish, you're like, I'm not doing this ever again.
Yes.
Then what happens? You sign up again, you do it again the next year, and so it's kind of funny that way.
That is so consistently the experience. That was the worst.
Yeah.
Guess I'll do a bigger one next year.
Yeah.
What?
Yep.
Yeah. There's just something about doing something freaking hard that you never thought you could do. Then you do it. And then you just want to have that feeling again.
Exactly. That's for sure.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes. Well, good for you guys. 37 miles in 8 hours, man. That is, and you had some sort of slope. So props to you too for doing some climbing in it. And, man. And I'm just curious, you mentioned that whole, I'm never going to do this again. And then you sign up for something. What, how long did it take for you to sign up for something else?
Well, we did this one the same race the next following year.
Yeah.
Okay. So you took some time and
I think we did some other races in between.
We did some other races, but
like some half marathons, I think, in there. So.
Yeah.
That's half marathons, and we did this one, and then we kind of hit a different track with our races.
Cool. I should say too, so Josh and your parents, Steffi, were doing the same event at the same
Yes.
time, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Steve, you mentioned the pressure of keeping going. Was there some like, competitiveness, like I'm gonna go farther than you, Josh, or
Yeah. Well, we
no,
always
or
have that.
Yeah.
Yeah, we do always have that. But we kind of, the good thing is we know he's probably going to go further than us
Yeah.
and a little faster. So we've accepted it.
Is he, I can't remember, is Josh older or younger than you guys?
He's 2 years younger than me.
Yeah.
He just
No
turned 50.
fair.
Yeah. See,
Yeah.
he's younger.
Yeah, it's no fair. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Dang, that's funny. Yeah. Oh, the competitiveness.
Yeah, that's for sure.
That's a fun vibe though, and fun that you have family doing all these.
Yeah.
Um, so it took you a little while. You did some other races, and then you signed up for the same one. And anyway, we talked before starting the podcast. We talked about maybe you having a special ultra marathon that is near and dear, or special race. Could be a timed race, of course, that's near and dear to you for whatever reason. It was like really difficult or something crazy happened. I don't know. Would love to hear another story from y'all if you've got a fun race you
Well,
want to share.
mine was our first marathon we did in Chattanooga, Tennessee. Yeah. And we had
Ooh,
a group of
cool.
friends that was going to start training for a marathon, and we would meet at a running store on Saturdays and do our long runs. But well, the year before, about February, our race was in 2017. This was 2016. We were running, and I was actually training to do I was going to be do a triathlon with two friends, and I was going to do the running part, and they,
Oh,
biker and a swimmer. So I was the runner,
cool.
and I was really struggling with my running. My hip was bothering me, and I
Yeah.
had a bunch of issues with it, and I went to a doctor, and they told me I had a pulled muscle, and
Mm,
so I kept trying to run on it, and I'm like, well, I can't be a wimp if I have a pulled muscle, even though I knew it wasn't a pulled muscle. I kind of know what a pulled muscle feels like. So,
yeah.
anyway, by May of that year, or triathlon was in June, I was walking with a cane because I was
Oh
barely
my gosh.
functioning at that point. And, they're like, well, we'll schedule an MRI, but, you have to go through physical therapy first, blah, blah, blah. So I was holding off to get my MRI to see what was going on with my hip. Well, I was teaching a class, and I came home to shower after my class I taught, and it broke my hip completely broke in half in the shower. So my first marathon was about 7 months after a complete broken hip. So that's probably my special story. So I was non-weight bearing for 2-3 months, where I could not put any weight on my leg, and then that was in May. So by September, I was I was trying to jog a block at a time, and it was just very painful. And then so our group was starting to train for the marathon. I'm like, well, I'm not going to sign up because I don't know how my hip's going to do. So I was running a block basically, and we missed the cutoff date for the race. Even though we raced the same day, we couldn't get into the one they were doing. But I ran the marathon. So in March, the following March. So it was pretty amazing.
Dang. Were you in pain?
No, I felt great after, it obviously took several months. I mean, once I got past the 3 mile mark, and the pain I was worried about because I didn't want to re-injure it, but, I just
Yeah.
kind of fought through it because I knew it was going to take a while to obviously feel good. Um, so, I just kept doing longer runs each week, and that's why we held off on registering because we weren't sure what was going to happen or how I was going to feel. And but yeah, I didn't have any issues. So
Dang.
by the time the race started, I was fine.
Wow. Good for you. Goodness. I feel like I missed how the break happened. Was it a stress fracture? Like,
I'm guessing. I'm not sure how that happened, but he thinks one day we were running and it was roads were frozen basically in January,
Oh.
and I slid
Oh.
and I landed on my hip, and I don't know if that's what started. He thinks because the timing is about that time.
Yeah.
So it just increasingly got worse. And Josh likes to joke. I got to Vegas like 2 months later and he forced me up this mountain. I'm like, well, my hips really hurt. And he goes, oh, you'll be fine. You'll be fine. So, I'm limping along and, because I don't like to be a wimp.
Yeah.
So I tried to keep
Competitive.
running, but it was very painful. But I don't know if that's where
With
it
reason.
started. And they never saw a reason that actually the doctor that saw me in the first place said he came in and apologized after it broke and said, you're 44 years old. We don't expect someone in decent shape and 44 to break a hip. So he just never thought that that could happen to me. So, and that's what was happening, and he didn't see it.
That is weird, and you still don't know the
So,
cause.
yeah, I don't know if that's it. I was
Was it a
pretty.
full break or was it a fracture?
It was, I have screws, and then my entire pelvis was
Yeah.
lifted
Oh my
by the
gosh,
time it was
yeah.
over. So, yeah.
Because it break and you didn't know it was broken because you kept moving on it for a while before you
Yeah.
saw the problem, which probably made it
It,
worse. Ugh.
it was probably 4 months
Oh my
of,
gosh.
continual, I was teaching aerobic classes and just trying
Oh
to,
my gosh, that's right.
yeah. So I'm doing jump squats and burpees and,
What?
yeah. So I'm trying, because I'm at this point, I'm like,
It's your job.
it's my job. So I thought this has to be in my head, and and after a while, when I was finally walking with a cane, I thought, okay, this is ridiculous. I can't
Yeah.
even walk. And then they were going to finally look at it.
Man.
It was pretty upsetting for me because I just felt like nobody believed what I was saying. But,
Yeah.
you know,
Something was wrong. And
yeah,
there obviously was.
yeah,
Oh man. And then you just ran a marathon. You did
yep,
it.
yep, I did it. Then we ran another one 6 months later.
Yeah. Did you do the triathlon then? Was that the marathon
No,
was no.
that was a month after I broke my hip, or actually
That
4
so you had
weeks
to
after I broke it. Yeah.
cancel it.
Yep.
Oh
Our
man, that's
marathon
fun
in
though.
March, and then we ran our second marathon in the fall July. So we just did two back to back.
Oh,
So
okay. Man, that's a bummer, but man, that's a cool idea though. I didn't know there were triathlons that were like a baton pass thing. Like,
yeah,
yeah, you do the bike because I don't want to do I could maybe do the biking, but like I'm not gonna swim. I'm not
that's
gonna do it.
that's us. If
Yeah.
we could skip the swim part. So yeah, it's a great way to do it if you can find a biker and a swimmer. Um,
Yeah. Yeah, that's fun.
yeah,
Someday.
yeah,
We've got we've got a couple Ragnars out here. Now, that would be my thing because you don't have to do any of that biking and swimming
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
stuff. You just
yep,
Yeah.
a lot of running.
yep.
Yep.
Yeah. There's
We
a
want to do one of those
200.
someday.
Yep.
Yeah, come out here. There's a 200-mile one out here, which is
Yeah.
so
Oh,
long.
oh,
But
that is
you're
a
doing
long one.
pieces of it.
Yeah,
And I
true.
think it's a 16-person team, so it's actually
Oh,
like
okay.
Okay,
That's
quite doable, but you're going to be exhausted over 2 days of like
yeah.
yeah,
sleeping in a
lack of
van or
sleep.
whatever.
Yep,
Yeah.
that'd be
Yeah.
tough.
Yeah. Intriguing, maybe someday.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, all the crazy things we consider. Well, cool. Steve, did you have a different story for like your craziest, hardest
Well,
race you've ever
I
done?
I still go back to the first or the timed race where we did the 37 miles because you look back from where I started, where you could hardly run 3 miles without stopping, and so to be able to accomplish 37 miles, even after running a marathon, I didn't think I could go any further than doing a marathon. To doing that, I was very pleased, and I kind of think about it this way too: is that during that race, I had no expectations of how far I wanted to run. I just ran. And I kind of did that on purpose. I realized, and I still do when we do our training runs, if you have to do 13 miles for a training run, and it seems like that's all you can do. Once you get to 13, you're like, oh, I can't do it
My
anymore.
mind is set on 13. I cannot go another step.
Yeah, and then the next week, 15, you do 15, like, oh, that's all I can do. I can't do anymore. So I just remember doing that race without any expectations and just going out there and having fun, really, and just running. And we ended up with 37 miles. So.
That's so cool. I'm down. I'm down for this time race thing. I'm thinking, why did I sign up for a 50K when I could have done that and maybe even gone 40 miles,
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, I imagine I'll finish this 50K in 6 hours ish. But yeah, it sounds cool to have an open time and just go and see how far.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, you've got me. Good job. Thanks. Thanks so much for sharing both of your stories, and your training and just all of it. I appreciate your insights and experiences, because it's different for everyone, and someone out there is similar to you and needs to hear your story. They need to know that Steve and Stephie were able to do it, and they can too. So,
yep.
I'm curious what's coming up down the pipeline for you guys. Do you have anything planned for the future?
Not quite yet, but I'm sure her brother will throw something out there and we'll have to do some crazy trail run coming up, maybe. So I'm not sure yet.
We did Leadville the last 3 years and with them, and so we don't know if we're going to do Leadville again or if we're going to move on to something different. I'm sure, right now we're kind of more focusing on strength training and some other things. So, but I'm sure come January there'll be something else we're training for.
Yeah, we might get back into the timed race again. The 8 hours or whatever. That was pretty fun. I like that. With no expectations of how far, you just run. So.
Well, I expect it to be 12 hours this time, Steve.
Yeah,
exactly.
Absolutely.
Or 24. Josh ran the 24 one, or
my dad. Yeah,
I guess. So.
Yes, we got that story. And your dad ran 50 miles, I think.
60, yeah.
60. Goodness gracious! What a guy.
I know. We can never make an excuse.
Awesome.
No excuses.
Yeah.
Yep.
No excuses. Because your dad. Dang it.
I know. That's what we said. Dang it. Dang him.
Dang him. And y'all have not done a 50 miler yet.
No.
Well, it could come soon.
It could. Yeah. It could come.
I think, did he do the 12 miles? Not 12 miles, 12 hours?
24.
Your dad? He did 24, 16, 24 hours?
Did 12.
Yeah.
That's it, because they did 2. Yeah, so just do the 12.
Yeah. Just the 12.
Yeah. Just the 12. It's not that long. It's just...
No. Half a day.
It's just half a day.
Yeah.
I know it. Well, cool. I hope to hear how that goes and how your future goes in those events. And one of my final questions for both of y'all would be, if you could give some advice to those folk that are listening. Like I said, a lot of folk listening to this podcast are new and probably maybe training for their first ultra marathon or thinking about signing up. What final advice would you give those newbies?
For myself, I think you'd be surprised what you can actually do if you put your mind to it. You don't have to go out and start running 30 miles altogether. Just start slow and build your way up. And before you know it, you'd be like us and looking back and thinking 3 miles is, really long distance. And after a while, that'll be, your maintainer or whatever. But you'll be surprised what you can do if you just keep at it.
Thanks, Steve. Any thoughts, Stephie, or are you on that bandwagon?
Yeah, very similar. I guess through all my training, our minds definitely control our bodies, and our bodies can handle a lot more than we give it credit for. Um, I think we're always feel like we're downers before we do something. Well, I can't do that. It's like, yes, you can, and we just have to prove it to ourselves, and we always need a challenge, and there's no better way to challenge our bodies and minds than to find something healthy and like a race.
Yeah, well said. My last thought. My wife gave birth 2 days ago, so we have a new baby. But I mentioned this because she went into that thinking this was our second child. The first time she had an epidural, and this time she was like, I'd like to go natural and like not have that and just have that experience. And she didn't think she could do it. She was like, I don't think I can do this. It's too much. But it was just incredible seeing her towards the end when she was probably dilated to an 8. And she was sort of forced into not getting the epidural because it was a little too late. But
Yeah.
she
Wow.
but she did it, and she owned it, and now she
That's
just
amazing.
feels so powerful
Yes,
because she
that's
like
awesome.
she did this
Exactly.
this incredibly hard thing.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, and it was just incredible to watch her do that, and she has just this confidence. I can already see the confidence difference in her
Yeah,
after that.
that's
So
awesome. Good for her.
yeah, so and this is similar, running a marathon is like giving birth, or or running a 50K. I've heard that saying. I don't know.
Yes, I've heard that a
It's
lot of
probably not,
times.
but they're both hard. So
Yeah, they're both
anyway,
hard.
yeah. So folk listening, you can do hard things, and it just feels good to just show yourself that you can do a hard thing, and that just feels really good. It's a good confidence booster. But well said, Steve and Steffi, and thanks for coming on and sharing your stories. My last plug will be to anyone listening to check out the show notes, and we've got links to different things down there. And one of those is a Facebook group with some other folk training for their first ultras, the Ordinary to Ultra Facebook group. And there's a Strava group as well if you're into that, and an email list if you want to get updates on the podcast. But thanks everyone for listening, and thanks again, Steve and Steffi. Appreciate you guys.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Hey, your host Brendan here. I just wanted to thank you personally for listening to today's episode. As someone preparing for my own first ultramarathon, I've found these conversations to be super valuable, and I hope they are for you as well. Whether you're listening on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, or somewhere else, make sure to follow or subscribe so you know when the next episode comes out. Also, make sure you check out the show notes of this episode. There's a link to sign up for the Ordinary to Ultra email newsletter, to join our Facebook and Strava groups where you can meet other people striving to run their first ultra marathon, and see any links that our guests may have provided as well. Thanks again, and we'll catch you in the next episode.